"The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts," said Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers. These words carry a profound truth. The way we think shapes the way we live. And in a world filled with distractions, setbacks, and constant demands, the need for unwavering resolve and fierce discipline has never been greater. This is where Stoic philosophy steps in, not as an ancient relic, but as a practical, timeless guide to mastering life's challenges and achieving personal greatness. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or enduring hardship for its own sake. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows you to navigate chaos with clarity, to stay focused when everything around you feels uncertain, and to build resilience that doesn't waver in the face of adversity. In this video, we'll explore how Stoic principles like self-control, resilience, and focus can transform the way you approach your goals, your relationships, and your inner world. Whether you're facing a personal setback, striving to achieve a long-held dream, or simply looking to live with more intention, the lessons of Stoicism offer a roadmap. This isn't just philosophy, it's a way of life, a toolkit for dominating life with unshakable resolve and fierce discipline. So let's dive in and uncover how you can harness these principles to take control of your destiny. What does it truly mean to dominate your life? At its core, it's about mastering your inner world, no matter what chaos unfolds around you. This is the essence of Stoic resolve, the unshakable ability to remain steadfast even when life throws its hardest punches. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. And it's this principle that separates those who feel defeated by circumstances from those who rise above them. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, put it simply, "Some things are within our power while others are not." This might sound obvious, but how often do we find ourselves wasting energy trying to change things outside our control? Stoic resolve is about redirecting that energy toward what we can influence, our thoughts, our actions, and our attitudes. It's not about denying emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing how to engage with the world, even when it feels like the ground is crumbling beneath you. Take a modern example. Imagine losing your job unexpectedly. It's easy to spiral into fear, frustration, or self-doubt. But someone with Stoic resolve doesn't let those emotions dictate their next steps. Instead, they focus on what they can do, updating their resume, reaching out to their network, or even using the time to explore new opportunities. By shifting their focus to actionable steps, they regain a sense of control and direction, even in the face of uncertainty. Now think about a moment in your own life when you felt overwhelmed or out of control. Maybe it was a difficult conversation, a missed opportunity, or a sudden change in plans. How did you react? And more importantly, how could you have approached it differently if you had applied Stoic resolve? The beauty of this philosophy is that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice staying grounded, to choose clarity over chaos, and to build the kind of resilience that doesn't just help you survive but thrive. Stoic resolve isn't a superpower reserved for ancient philosophers or modern-day heroes. It's a skill, one that anyone can develop with practice and intention. And as we'll explore next, it's just one piece of the larger Stoic framework that can help you live a life of purpose, focus, and unwavering strength. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Without it, even the most inspiring dreams remain just that, dreams. For the Stoics, discipline wasn't just a virtue, it was the very foundation of a meaningful life. They believed that true freedom comes not from indulging every impulse, but from mastering them. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, once said, "You must be your own master before you can master anything else." This idea of self-mastery is at the heart of Stoic discipline, aligning your actions with your values, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Think about it. How often do we set goals only to abandon them when the initial excitement fades? Maybe it's a fitness routine, a work project, or a personal habit you've been meaning to build. The Stoics understood that discipline isn't about motivation, it's about commitment. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it because you've decided that the goal is worth the effort. Take Cato the Younger, a Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, as an example. He was known for his unyielding discipline, even in the face of immense pressure. Whether it was his unwavering commitment to justice or his refusal to compromise his principles, Cato's life serves as a powerful reminder of what's possible when discipline becomes a way of being. But Stoic discipline isn't just about grand gestures or historical figures. It's also about the small, everyday choices that shape our lives. It's about resisting the temptation to hit snooze in the morning or choosing to work on a difficult task instead of scrolling through your phone. These moments might seem insignificant, but they add up. Over time, they build the kind of character that can withstand life's storms. So let's bring this closer to home. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you use more discipline? Is it in your health, your work, your relationships, or perhaps your mindset? What's one small step you could take today to start aligning your actions with your values? Remember, discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about taking one step forward, even if it's a small one, and then another. As we move forward, we'll explore how this Stoic virtue of discipline, when paired with resolve, creates a powerful framework for living with intention and purpose. But for now, consider this: every act of discipline, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming the person you aspire to be. Picture this: you're at the airport, ready to board your flight, when an announcement comes over the speakers. Your plane has been delayed. Maybe it's bad weather, a mechanical issue, or something entirely out of your hands. Immediately, your mind starts racing. You think about the meetings you'll miss, the plans that will fall through, the hours you'll spend waiting. Sound familiar? This is the kind of situation where the Stoic concept of the dichotomy of control becomes a game changer. The dichotomy of control is one of Stoicism's most practical tools. At its core, it's about understanding the difference between what is within our power and what isn't. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. In other words, the key to peace of mind lies in focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we can't. Let's break it down. When you're stuck at the airport, worrying about the delay won't make the plane arrive any faster. But what can you control? You can use the time to catch up on work, read a book, or even take a moment to relax. By shifting your focus to what's within your power, you reclaim your energy and reduce the stress that comes from fighting against the inevitable. This principle isn't just for travel mishaps, it applies to nearly every aspect of life. Think about social media, for example. You can't control what others post or how they react to your content, but you can control how much time you spend on the platform, the kind of content you engage with, and the boundaries you set for yourself. Or consider a difficult conversation with a friend or colleague. You can't control their response, but you can choose how you approach the discussion, the words you use, and the tone you set. The dichotomy of control isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It's about redirecting your attention to where you can make a difference. When you stop wasting energy on things outside your control, you free up mental space to focus on what truly matters. Here's a simple exercise to put this into practice. Take a moment to list 3 things that are currently causing you stress or worry. Now categorize them. Are they within your control or are they outside of it? If they're within your control, what's one step you can take to address them? If they're outside your control, how can you shift your mindset to let go of the anxiety they're causing? This exercise isn't about solving everything at once, it's about building awareness. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns. You'll see how much of your energy is spent on things you can't change, and you'll begin to reclaim that energy for what truly matters. The dichotomy of control isn't just a Stoic principle. It's a way of life, one that can help you navigate chaos with clarity and purpose. As we move forward, we'll explore how this principle connects to other Stoic virtues, creating a framework for living with intention and resilience. But for now, consider this: every time you choose to focus on what you can control, you're taking a step toward a calmer, more empowered version of yourself. How do you respond when life knocks you down? Do you see it as a setback or as an opportunity to grow stronger? For the Stoics, adversity wasn't something to fear or avoid. It was a teacher, a test of character, and a chance to build resilience. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. And this perspective, though simple, is revolutionary. It shifts the way we see challenges, not as obstacles to our happiness, but as stepping stones to our growth. The Stoics believed that life's hardships are inevitable, but how we respond to them is entirely within our control. Think of it like this: if you're training to run a marathon, you don't just run on flat, easy terrain. You push yourself up hills, through rough patches, and in all kinds of weather. Those difficult moments are what make you stronger, faster, and more prepared for race day. In the same way, the challenges we face in life are opportunities to build mental and emotional endurance. They're not there to break us, they're there to shape us. Take the story of Thomas Edison, for example. Before he became one of history's most famous inventors, he faced countless failures. His attempts to create the light bulb were met with over 1,000 unsuccessful experiments. But rather than seeing these as failures, Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's Stoic resilience in action, seeing every setback as a lesson, every failure as feedback, and every challenge as a chance to improve. Now let's bring this closer to home. Think about a time in your own life when you faced a significant challenge. Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or a moment when everything seemed to go wrong. How did you respond? Did you feel defeated, or did you find a way to rise above it? And more importantly, what did you learn from that experience? The Stoics would argue that the true value of adversity lies not in what happens to us, but in what we take away from it. This isn't about pretending that hardship is easy or that pain doesn't hurt. It's about choosing to see challenges through a different lens, one that focuses on growth rather than defeat. Every time you face a difficult situation, you have a choice. You can let it overwhelm you, or you can use it as an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. So the next time life knocks you down, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this experience? And how can I use this challenge to become the best version of myself? Because in the end, it's not the absence of adversity that defines us, it's how we rise to meet it. The present moment is all we truly have. While it's easy to get caught up in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, the Stoics understood that the only time we can act, think, or feel is right now. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "Do not disturb yourself by imagining your whole life at once. Do not dwell on all the various troubles which may come to pass, but instead focus on the present moment." This simple yet profound insight lies at the heart of Stoic mindfulness, a practice that teaches us to anchor ourselves in the here and now. For the Stoics, being present wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a practical tool for living well. They believed that much of our suffering comes from being mentally scattered, drifting into the past or projecting into the future, rather than fully engaging with what's happening right in front of us. By cultivating presence, they aim to quiet the noise of distraction and focus on what truly matters. Imagine this: you're sitting down to work on an important project, but your mind keeps wandering. You think about an argument you had yesterday, or you worry about a deadline next week. Suddenly, an hour has passed and you've barely made progress. This is where Stoic mindfulness comes in. Instead of letting your thoughts pull you in different directions, you bring your attention back to the task at hand. You focus on what you can do in this moment, right now, to move forward. In today's world, distractions are everywhere: smartphones, social media, endless notifications, all vying for our attention. But the Stoic practice of presence offers a way to reclaim our focus. It's about training your mind to stay grounded, even when the world around you feels chaotic. For example, when you're having a conversation with someone, put your phone away and truly listen. When you're eating a meal, savor each bite instead of scrolling through your feed. These small acts of presence can have a profound impact on your sense of clarity and calm. Here's a simple way to start. Set aside just 5 minutes each day to practice being fully present. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the present moment. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about building the habit of returning to the here and now over and over again. This practice isn't just about reducing stress or improving focus. It's about reclaiming your life. When you're fully present, you're able to engage more deeply with the people and experiences that matter most. You're able to act with intention rather than reacting to the chaos around you. And over time, this habit of presence becomes a source of strength, a way to navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. As we continue to explore the Stoic path, remember this: the present moment is where life happens. It's where you have the power to think, act, and choose. By embracing this truth, you can transform not just how you live, but how you experience life itself. What does it mean to be truly free? For the Stoics, freedom wasn't about having unlimited choices or indulging every desire. Instead, it was about mastering oneself, about cultivating the kind of self-control that allows you to rise above your impulses and act with intention. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it this way: "No man is free who is not master of himself." These words cut to the heart of Stoic philosophy. True freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from inner discipline. Think about it. How often do we feel controlled by our own desires? Whether it's reaching for another slice of cake when we're already full, scrolling through social media instead of working, or snapping at someone in a moment of frustration, impulsive reactions can leave us feeling powerless. The Stoics believed that these moments of weakness aren't just harmless lapses, they're barriers to living a life of purpose and fulfillment. Self-control, in the Stoic sense, isn't about denying yourself pleasure or living a life of austerity. It's about aligning your actions with your values even when it's hard. It's about pausing before you act, asking yourself whether this choice serves your long-term goals, and then choosing accordingly. This kind of discipline doesn't restrict you, it liberates you. It frees you from the tyranny of your impulses and allows you to live with clarity and intention. Let's take a practical example: procrastination. We've all been there, sitting down to work on an important task, only to get distracted by something easier or more enjoyable. In that moment, the impulse to avoid discomfort feels overwhelming. But Stoic self-control is about recognizing that impulse for what it is, a temporary feeling, and choosing to act anyway. It's about reminding yourself that the satisfaction of completing the task far outweighs the fleeting pleasure of distraction. Or consider habits like overeating or overspending. These behaviors often stem from a lack of self-control, from letting momentary desires override our better judgment. but the Stoics would argue that every time you resist these impulses, every time you choose to act in alignment with your values, you're reinforcing your freedom. You're proving to yourself that you're not a slave to your desires, that you have the power to choose. Here's a challenge for you. Think about one area of your life where you tend to act impulsively. Maybe it's staying up too late, skipping workouts, or reacting emotionally in conversations. What's one small step you could take to exercise more self-control in that situation? It doesn't have to be a dramatic change, just a single, intentional choice. Over time, these small choices add up, building the kind of discipline that transforms not just your actions, but your entire way of being. The Stoics believed that self-control is the key to living a life of purpose and freedom. It's not about perfection, but progress, about consistently choosing to act in ways that align with your highest values. And as we'll explore next, this principle of self-mastery is just one part of a larger Stoic framework for living with intention, resilience, and unwavering strength. Detachment is not indifference, it's freedom. The Stoics understood that clinging too tightly to outcomes often leads to frustration, anxiety, and disappointment. Instead, they practiced a form of detachment that allowed them to focus on what they could control: their effort, their intentions, and their character. This doesn't mean they didn't care about results. It means they refused to let those results dictate their peace of mind. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, captured this idea perfectly. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. When we tie our happiness to specific outcomes, we set ourselves up for unnecessary suffering. What if things don't go as planned? What if we fail? The Stoics would argue that these fears often stem from an unhealthy attachment to results, rather than a focus on the process itself. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're preparing for a job interview. You've done your research, practiced your answers, and polished your resume. You've put in the effort, but now the outcome is out of your hands. Someone with a Stoic mindset would focus on what they can control, showing up prepared, presenting themselves authentically, and doing their best while letting go of the rest. Whether they get the job or not, they know they've acted with integrity and given it their all. This kind of detachment isn't about giving up or not caring. It's about redirecting your energy toward what truly matters, the quality of your effort. When you detach from the outcome, you free yourself from the weight of expectation. You stop worrying about things you can't control and start focusing on what you can influence. And in doing so, you create space for clarity, creativity, and resilience. Think about a time in your own life when you were overly attached to a specific result. Maybe it was a promotion, a relationship, or a personal goal. How did that attachment affect your mindset? Did it lead to anxiety, frustration, or even a sense of defeat? Now, imagine approaching that same situation with a Stoic sense of detachment, focusing on your effort, your growth, and your commitment rather than the outcome itself. How might that shift have changed your experience? This is the art of Stoic detachment. It's not about disconnecting from life or avoiding ambition. It's about engaging fully with the process while releasing your grip on the results. It's about finding freedom in the effort itself rather than the outcome. And over time, this practice builds the kind of resilience that allows you to thrive, no matter what life throws your way. As we move forward, we'll explore how this principle of detachment connects to other Stoic virtues, creating a framework for living with intention, peace, and purpose. But for now, consider this: every time you focus on your effort rather than the outcome, you're taking a step toward a more empowered, resilient version of yourself. Where do you find your peace? Is it in the quiet moments of solitude, the comfort of a familiar routine, or perhaps in the company of loved ones? For the Stoics, peace wasn't something to be found outside of themselves. It was an inner state, a calm that could be cultivated no matter the circumstances. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that true peace comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our own thoughts and emotions. The Stoics believed that inner peace is a byproduct of living in alignment with nature and reason. It's about accepting what we cannot change and focusing our energy on what we can influence. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It means approaching life with a sense of clarity and purpose, rather than being tossed around by every wave of emotion or external event. Take financial worries, for example. Money is one of the most common sources of stress in modern life. Bills pile up, unexpected expenses arise, and the future can feel uncertain. But Stoicism teaches us to separate the facts from the fears. Yes, financial challenges are real, but the anxiety we feel about them is often amplified by our own thoughts. By focusing on what we can control, budgeting, saving, or exploring new opportunities, we can reduce the mental noise and approach the situation with a clearer, calmer mind. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're caught in a storm. The wind is howling, the rain is pouring, and you're soaked to the bone. You can't stop the storm, but you can find shelter. Inner peace works the same way. Life will always have its storms, stress, setbacks, and uncertainty, but Stoicism gives us the tools to create an inner shelter, a space of calm where we can weather any situation. So let's bring this closer to home. What's one source of inner turmoil in your life right now? Maybe it's a strained relationship, a work deadline, or a personal goal that feels out of reach. Take a moment to reflect. How much of your stress comes from the situation itself, and how much comes from your thoughts about it? What's one step you could take to address the parts within your control while letting go of what you can't change? Cultivating inner peace isn't about eliminating all challenges or achieving a state of constant bliss. It's about building resilience, clarity, and a sense of purpose that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. And as we'll explore next, this inner calm is just one piece of the larger Stoic framework for living a life of meaning, focus, and unwavering strength. Fear is often worse than the thing we fear. It's not the situation itself that paralyzes us, it's the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw fear not as an external force, but as a mental construct, a product of our imagination and assumptions. And while fear can feel overwhelming, it's also something we have the power to dismantle. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who rose from slavery to become one of the most influential teachers of his time, put it this way: "It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them." In other words, fear isn't rooted in reality, it's rooted in how we interpret reality. A crowded room isn't inherently terrifying, it's our thoughts about being judged or embarrassed that create the fear. A job interview isn't inherently threatening, it's our thoughts about rejection or failure that make it daunting. The Stoic approach to fear is simple yet profound. Confront it with reason. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, you examine it. You ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Is this fear based on facts or assumptions? What's the worst that could happen, and if it did, could I handle it? By breaking fear down into its components, you strip away its power. You realize that fear is often a paper tiger, loud and intimidating, but ultimately harmless. Let's apply this to a common fear, public speaking. For many people, the thought of standing in front of an audience is terrifying. But why? Is it the act of speaking itself or the fear of being judged? The Stoics would encourage you to challenge that fear. What's the worst-case scenario? Maybe you stumble over your words or forget a line. Would that really be the end of the world? Or could you recover, learn from the experience, and grow stronger? By confronting the fear head-on, you begin to see it for what it is, a mental hurdle, not an insurmountable obstacle. Here's a practical exercise to put this into action. Take a moment to list 3 fears that hold you back. It could be fear of failure, fear of rejection, or even fear of the unknown. Now for each fear, ask yourself, what's the root of this fear? Is it based on facts or assumptions? What's the worst that could happen, and how would I handle it if it did? This process of questioning helps you see fear as a mental construct, not an unchangeable reality. The beauty of the Stoic approach is that it doesn't just help you manage fear, it helps you transcend it. Over time, you learn to face challenges with clarity and confidence, knowing that fear is just a story you can rewrite. And as you build this habit, you'll find that the things you once feared no longer hold the same power over you. So the next time fear creeps in, remember, it's not the situation itself that's the problem, it's your thoughts about it. And with the tools of Stoicism, you have the power to change those thoughts, one reasoned step at a time. What does it mean to live a virtuous life? For the Stoics, this wasn't just a philosophical question. It was the very foundation of their worldview. They believed that virtue, above all else, was the ultimate measure of a life well lived. But what exactly did they mean by virtue? In Stoicism, virtue isn't just about being a good person in the conventional sense. It's about cultivating qualities like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, and aligning your actions with these principles in every aspect of your life. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most revered thinkers, put it this way: "The greatest good is a mind that follows the path of virtue." For the Stoics, virtue wasn't a lofty ideal or something reserved for saints and sages. It was a practical guide for everyday living, a compass that could help you navigate life's complexities with integrity and purpose. Let's break this down. Wisdom, in the Stoic sense, isn't just about knowledge or intelligence. It's about seeing the world as it truly is, free from the distortions of ego, bias, or emotion. It's about making decisions based on reason and clarity rather than impulse or fear. Courage isn't just physical bravery, it's the strength to face life's challenges with resilience, to stand by your principles even when it's difficult. Justice is about fairness and compassion, treating others with respect and dignity, and contributing to the greater good. And temperance is about self-control, balancing your desires and impulses so they don't control you. These 4 virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, were the pillars of Stoic philosophy. They weren't separate qualities but interconnected aspects of a virtuous life. To the Stoics, living virtuously meant striving to embody all of them, not just in grand gestures but in the small, everyday choices that define who we are. So, how does this apply to modern life? Consider an ethical dilemma you might face at work. Maybe you discover a colleague has made a mistake that could cost the company money. What do? A virtuous approach would balance wisdom, understanding the full context of the situation, with courage, the willingness to address the issue honestly. It would require justice, treating your colleague fairly, and temperance, avoiding knee-jerk reactions or emotional outbursts. By aligning your actions with these virtues, you not only handle the situation effectively, but also strengthen your own character in the process. Here's a question to reflect on. What values guide your decisions in challenging moments? Are they rooted in wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, or do external pressures and impulses sometimes take the lead? The Stoics would argue that every choice is an opportunity to practice virtue, to align your actions with your highest principles. Living virtuously isn't about perfection, it's about intention. It's about striving to be the best version of yourself, even when it's hard. And as we'll explore next, this commitment to virtue doesn't just shape your character, it transforms the way you engage with the world, creating a life of meaning, purpose, and lasting impact. What if everything you fear came true? For many of us, the mere thought is enough to send a shiver down our spines. But what if, instead of avoiding these fears, we face them head-on? This is the essence of the Stoic practice of negative visualization, a powerful tool for building resilience, reducing anxiety, and cultivating gratitude. Negative visualization doesn't mean dwelling on doom and gloom or expecting the worst. Instead, it's about intentionally imagining worst-case scenarios to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. By visualizing potential challenges, we strip them of their power to shock or overwhelm us. Here's how it works. Let's say you're worried about losing your job. Instead of letting that fear fester, you take a few minutes to imagine what would happen if it actually occurred. How would you respond? What steps would you take to find a new opportunity? By exploring this scenario in your mind, you reduce the anxiety of the unknown and build a mental roadmap for handling the situation if it arises. This practice isn't just about preparing for adversity, it's also about deepening your appreciation for what you have. When we take time to imagine losing the things we value, our health, our relationships, our stability, we often find ourselves feeling more grateful for them in the present moment. It's like a mental reset button, shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already possess. Consider applying this to financial planning. Imagine for a moment that you lost a significant portion of your savings. How would you adapt? What changes would you make to your spending habits? By visualizing this scenario, you might discover new ways to build financial resilience, like creating an emergency fund or cutting unnecessary expenses. Or think about relationships. What if a loved one were no longer in your life? How would you cope? And what steps could you take to strengthen those connections now? Negative visualization isn't about fostering fear. It's about inspiring action. It reminds us to cherish the people and experiences that matter most, while also preparing us to face life's uncertainties with courage and clarity. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on a current worry or fear. What's the worst that could happen, and if it did, how would you respond? By engaging in this exercise, you're not just building resilience, you're reclaiming your power to face life's challenges with a calm and focused mind. The Stoics believed that by confronting our fears, we transform them from paralyzing obstacles into opportunities for growth. And as we'll explore next, this practice of negative visualization is just one part of a larger toolkit for living with intention, resilience, and unwavering strength. How are you spending your time? It's a simple question, but one that cuts to the heart of how we live our lives. For the Stoics, time wasn't just a resource, it was the most valuable one we have. Unlike money, possessions, or even relationships, time is finite. Once it's gone forever. And yet, how often do we waste it on things that don't truly matter? The Stoics saw time as a gift, a fleeting opportunity to live with purpose and intention. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, captured this idea perfectly. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. These words aren't meant to be morbid, they're a call to action. They remind us that every moment is precious and every decision we make shapes the kind of life we're building. The Stoics believed that wasting time wasn't just unproductive, it was a form of self-betrayal. So, what does it mean to use time wisely? For the Stoics, it wasn't about filling every second with activity or chasing productivity for its own sake. It was about aligning your time with your values, about ensuring that the hours you spend reflect what truly matters to you. This might mean dedicating more time to your passions, investing in meaningful relationships, or simply allowing yourself moments of stillness and reflection. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about your average day. How much of your time is spent on autopilot, scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, or getting caught up in tasks that don't align with your goals? The Stoics would urge you to take a step back and ask, is this how I want to spend my time? Am I living in a way that reflects my deepest values? Here's a practical exercise to put this into action. Take a moment to audit your day. Write down how you spend your time from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Be honest how much of it is spent on things that truly matter to you, and how much is lost to distractions or habits that don't serve your long-term goals. This exercise isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. Once you see where your time is going, you can start making intentional choices to redirect it toward what truly matters. The Stoics also remind us that time is a great equalizer. No matter who you are or what you've achieved, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. What sets us apart is how we choose to use them. Are you investing your time in ways that bring you closer to your goals, or are you letting it slip away unnoticed? As we reflect on the Stoic view of time, here's a question to consider. If today were your last day, would you be satisfied with how you spent it? It's a powerful reminder to live with intention, to treat each moment as the gift it is. Because in the end, time isn't just something we have, it's something we are. And how we spend it defines the life we create. Acceptance is the first step to peace. It's not about resignation or giving up. It's about seeing reality clearly, without the filters of denial or wishful thinking. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. When we fight against what we can't change, we waste energy and create unnecessary pain. But when we learn to accept reality as it is, we free ourselves to respond with clarity and purpose. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured slavery and exile, put it this way: "Do not seek to have events happen as you want them to, but instead wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." These words are a powerful reminder that acceptance isn't passive, it's an active choice to align ourselves with the flow of life, rather than struggling against it. It's about finding peace in the midst of imperfection and strength in the face of uncertainty. Let's take a practical example: illness. No one wants to face sickness, but it's a reality that touches all of us at some point. When we resist the reality of illness, when we dwell on how unfair it is or how much we wish things were different, we add layers of mental suffering to the physical pain. But Stoic acceptance invites us to approach the situation differently. Instead of fighting against what we can't change, we focus on what we can do, seeking treatment, resting, and finding moments of gratitude even in difficult times. This shift doesn't erase the hardship, but it can make it easier to bear. The same principle applies to loss. Whether it's the end of a relationship, the death of a loved one, or a missed opportunity, loss is an inevitable part of life. And while it's natural to grieve, Stoicism teaches us that clinging to what's gone only prolongs the pain. Acceptance allows us to honor the past without being trapped by it. It helps us find meaning in the experience and move forward with resilience. Here's a question to reflect on. What's something in your life that you struggle to accept? Maybe it's a personal limitation, a difficult relationship, or a situation that feels beyond your control. Take a moment to consider how resistance might be adding to your suffering. What would it look like to approach that situation with acceptance, not as a sign of defeat, but as a step toward peace and clarity? The Stoic art of acceptance isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about meeting life as it is with openness and courage. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of resistance and finding strength in the present moment. And as we'll explore next, this practice of acceptance is just one part of a larger Stoic framework for living with intention, resilience, and unwavering resolve. What would your journal say about you? Imagine flipping through its pages years from now. What story would it tell? For the Stoics, journaling wasn't just a habit, it was a tool for self-mastery. They used it to reflect on their thoughts, actions, and progress, turning the act of writing into a daily practice of clarity and growth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, kept a private journal that later became known as Meditations. In it he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words weren't just philosophical musings, they were reminders to himself, a way to stay grounded and focused in the midst of chaos. The Stoics believed that journaling was a way to hold yourself accountable, to examine your day with honesty and intention. It wasn't about recording every detail or venting frustrations. It was about identifying patterns, learning from mistakes, and reinforcing virtues. By putting their thoughts on paper, they could see them more clearly, untangling the noise of emotion and distraction to find the signal of reason and truth. Think about how often our minds feel cluttered, worries about the future, regrets about the past, or endless to-do lists vying for attention. Journaling creates a space to declutter, to sort through the chaos and focus on what truly matters. It's like holding up a mirror to your inner world, allowing you to see yourself more clearly and make intentional choices about how to move forward. So, how can you start a Stoic journaling practice? Begin by setting aside just 5 to 10 minutes each day. Find a quiet space and write about your experiences from a Stoic perspective. Ask yourself questions like, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I learn from this? How can I approach tomorrow with more wisdom and courage? These prompts aren't about judgment, they're about growth. They help you identify areas for improvement while also celebrating your progress. Here's a practical example. Let's say you had a difficult conversation with a coworker. Instead of dwelling on frustration, use your journal to reflect on the situation. What could you have done differently? How did your emotions influence your actions? And most importantly, what can you take away from this experience to handle similar situations better in the future? By approaching your day with this mindset, you turn every experience into an opportunity for growth. Now let's bring this closer to home. Take a moment to reflect on your day. What stood out to you? What did you learn? And how can you use those insights to live with more intention tomorrow? The Stoic practice of journaling isn't just about writing, it's about creating a dialogue with yourself, one that helps you grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient with each passing day. As we continue to explore the Stoic path, remember this: your journal is more than just a record of your life, it's a tool for shaping it. By making self-reflection a daily habit, you're not just documenting your journey, you're actively crafting the person you want to become. Anger is a temporary madness. It's a flame that burns hot and fast, often leaving destruction in its wake. For the Stoics, anger wasn't just an emotion to manage, it was a force to master. They saw it as one of the most destructive emotions, a fire that could consume not just the person feeling it, but everyone around them. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, put it bluntly: anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. These words remind us that while anger might feel justified in the moment, its consequences are rarely worth the cost. The Stoics believed that anger stems from a mismatch between our expectations and reality. When things don't go as planned, when others act in ways we find frustrating or unfair, anger rises as a reaction. But here's the key insight: anger doesn't solve the problem. It clouds our judgment, distorts our perspective, and often makes the situation worse. That's why the Stoics practiced patience and reason as antidotes to anger. Instead of reacting impulsively, they paused, stepped back, and asked themselves, is this worth losing my peace over? What's the most constructive way to handle this? Take a modern example. Imagine you're at work and a colleague takes credit for a project you've poured your heart into. Your first instinct might be to lash out, to confront them in anger. But the Stoic approach would be different. Instead of letting the emotion take control, you'd pause and reflect. What's the root of your frustration? Is it the credit itself or the feeling of being undervalued? By addressing the deeper issue calmly, you're more likely to find a resolution that strengthens your position rather than damaging it. Seneca offers another powerful perspective. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. This doesn't mean ignoring the issue, it means giving yourself time to cool down, to think clearly, and to choose your response wisely. When we act in anger, we often say or do things we later regret. But when we pause, we create space for reason to guide our actions. So let's bring this closer to home. Think about a recent moment when you felt angry. Maybe it was a heated argument, a rude comment, or a situation that felt deeply unfair. How did you respond? And more importantly, how could you have handled it differently if you had approached it with stoic patience and reason? The goal isn't to suppress your emotions, it's to channel them in a way that serves you rather than sabotages you. The Stoic approach to anger isn't about becoming emotionless or detached. It's about reclaiming your power, choosing how to respond rather than being swept away by the heat of the moment. And as we'll explore next, this practice of mastering anger is just one piece of the larger Stoic toolkit for living with clarity, purpose, and unwavering resolve. What are you grateful for today? It's a simple question, but one that can shift your entire perspective if you let it. For the Stoics, gratitude wasn't just a feel-good exercise. It was a powerful practice for cultivating contentment and resilience. In a world that often feels focused on what we lack, gratitude helps us see the abundance that's already here. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless meditations, wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." These words remind us that gratitude isn't about ignoring life's challenges. It's about finding light even in the darkest moments. The Stoics believed that gratitude is a form of mental discipline. It trains us to focus on what we have rather than what we're missing. This shift in perspective doesn't just make us feel better. It helps us approach life with a sense of calm and purpose. When we're constantly chasing the next big thing, a promotion, a new possession, a milestone, we risk overlooking the beauty and value of what's already in front of us. Gratitude pulls us back to the present, grounding us in the here and now. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. It's easy to spiral into frustration, focusing on the delay and the stress it's causing. But what if instead you took a moment to appreciate the fact that you have a car, a job to go to, and the ability to navigate the world independently? This shift doesn't change the situation, but it changes how you experience it. Gratitude transforms frustration into perspective, reminding you that even in inconvenience, there's something to be thankful for. The Stoics also saw gratitude as a way to prepare for adversity. By regularly reflecting on what we're grateful for, we build a mental reserve of positivity that can sustain us during tough times. Think of it like filling a well. When life throws challenges your way, you can draw from that reserve to stay grounded and resilient. So, how can you start practicing Stoic gratitude? One simple yet powerful way is to keep a daily gratitude list. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. They can be as small as a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or the sound of birds singing outside your window. Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice and appreciate the good, even in the midst of chaos. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on your day so far. What's one thing you're grateful for right now? Maybe it's the support of a loved one, the opportunity to learn something new, or even the simple fact that you have a roof over your head. By focusing on these moments of gratitude, you're not just improving your mood, you're building a mindset of abundance and resilience. The Stoic practice of gratitude isn't about denying hardship or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to see the good even when life feels heavy, and in doing so, you create a foundation of contentment that can carry you through whatever comes your way. As we continue to explore the Stoic path, remember this: gratitude is more than a practice, it's a way of seeing the world. By embracing it, you're not just finding peace in the present, you're cultivating a mindset that can transform your entire life. Death is not to be feared but understood. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a philosophical stance, it was a practical tool for living with clarity and purpose. They saw death not as a distant, abstract concept, but as a natural part of life, something to be acknowledged and even embraced. By contemplating the inevitability of death, they believed we could strip away the distractions and illusions that keep us from living fully. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." These words remind us that death isn't the enemy, it's the reminder that time is finite, that every moment is a gift. When we stop pretending that life will go on forever, we begin to live with greater intention, focus, and gratitude. So, how does this apply to modern life? Imagine you've just received news that you have 1 year left to live. What would you do differently? Would you spend more time with loved ones, pursue a long-held dream, or simply savor the small moments that often go unnoticed? The Stoics would argue that this exercise isn't morbid, it's liberating. By facing the reality of death, we clarify what truly matters and let go of what doesn't. Let's bring this closer to home. Think about how often we postpone the things that matter most: telling someone we love them, pursuing a passion, or simply taking time to enjoy life. Why do we wait? Often, it's because we assume there will always be more time. But the Stoic practice of contemplating death shatters that illusion. It reminds us that life is happening right now, and if we want to live fully, we have to start today. Here's a simple exercise to put this into practice. Take a moment to reflect on your life as it is right now. If today were your last day, would you be satisfied with how you've spent it? What changes would you make to align your actions with your deepest values? The goal isn't to dwell on fear or regret. It's to use the awareness of mortality as a catalyst for living with greater purpose and presence. The Stoic view of death isn't about ignoring life's joys or fixating on its end. It's about finding freedom in the acceptance of what we cannot control. By embracing the inevitability of death, we reclaim our power to live fully, authentically, and without regret. And in doing so, we transform the way we experience every moment, from the mundane to the extraordinary. So, the next time you feel weighed down by fear or hesitation, remember this: death is not the end of life, it's the measure of it. And by facing it with courage and clarity, you open yourself to a life that's richer, deeper, and more meaningful than you ever imagined. What would happen if you embraced discomfort instead of avoiding it? The Stoics believed that deliberately seeking out discomfort wasn't just a test of endurance, it was a way to build resilience, cultivate gratitude, and strengthen the mind. They called this practice voluntary discomfort, and it's one of the most transformative tools in the Stoic toolkit. By willingly stepping into situations that challenge us, we prepare ourselves to handle life's inevitable hardships with greater ease and confidence. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who rose from slavery to become one of the most influential teachers of his time, put it this way: "Difficulties show what men are." Therefore, when a difficulty falls upon you, remember that God, like a trainer of wrestlers, has matched you with a rough young man. These words remind us that discomfort isn't something to fear, it's an opportunity to grow stronger, to test our limits, and to discover what we're truly capable of. At its core, voluntary discomfort is about training the mind to handle adversity. When we shield ourselves from discomfort, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, we become fragile, easily shaken by the smallest challenges. But when we expose ourselves to controlled doses of hardship, we build mental and emotional resilience. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So, how can we apply this in modern life? One practical example is fasting. By skipping a meal or extending the time between meals, we not only challenge our physical endurance but also train our minds to resist impulsive cravings. Another example is taking cold showers. While it might feel uncomfortable at first, this simple act can teach us to stay calm and focused in the face of discomfort, a skill that translates to other areas of life. The Stoics didn't practice voluntary discomfort to punish themselves or to prove their toughness. They did it to remind themselves that discomfort is temporary and that they could endure far more than they thought possible. It's a way of building confidence in our own resilience so that when life throws unexpected challenges our way, we're ready to meet them with courage and calm. Here's a challenge for you. Try one act of voluntary discomfort today. It doesn't have to be extreme. It could be as simple as waking up an hour earlier, skipping your usual morning coffee, or walking in the cold without a heavy coat. Notice how you feel during the experience and reflect on what it teaches you about your own strength and resilience. By embracing discomfort, we don't just prepare for life's challenges, we transform the way we experience them. We learn to see discomfort not as something to avoid, but as an opportunity to grow. And in doing so, we build the kind of inner strength that allows us to thrive, no matter what life throws our way. Criticism is an opportunity for growth. It's not always easy to hear, but the Stoics believed that how we respond to criticism reveals far more about us than the criticism itself. Instead of seeing it as a personal attack or a blow to their ego, they viewed it as valuable feedback, a chance to learn, improve, and strengthen their character. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: "If anyone can prove and show to me that I think and act in error, I will gladly change it, for I seek the truth by which no one was ever truly harmed." This mindset shifts the focus from defending ourselves to seeking understanding, transforming criticism from a source of pain into a tool for growth. The Stoic approach to criticism begins with perspective. They understood that not all criticism is fair or constructive, but even the harshest words can contain a kernel of truth. Instead of reacting defensively or emotionally, they paused to ask themselves, is there something here I can learn from? Am I being honest with myself about my actions or decisions? By approaching criticism with curiosity rather than resistance, they were able to extract value even from unfair or poorly delivered feedback. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you've just received a critical comment on a social media post. Your first instinct might be to fire back, to defend yourself or prove the critic wrong. But the Stoic approach would be different. You'd take a moment to reflect, is there any truth to this comment? Does it point to something I could improve? Even if the criticism is unfair or unkind, you can choose to respond with grace, using it as a reminder to stay grounded and focused on your values. In the workplace, criticism can feel even more personal. Maybe your boss points out a mistake in a project, or a colleague suggests a different approach to a task. It's natural to feel defensive or frustrated, but the Stoic mindset encourages you to see this as an opportunity. Instead of focusing on how the feedback makes you feel, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to improve my work or strengthen my skills? By shifting your focus from the emotional sting to the potential for growth, you turn criticism into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Here's a question to reflect on. Think about a recent time when you received criticism, whether it was from a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger online. How did you respond? Did you react defensively, or did you take a moment to reflect on what was said? And most importantly, What could you have learned from that experience if you had approached it with a Stoic mindset? The Stoic approach to criticism isn't about accepting every negative comment as truth or ignoring the emotional impact it can have. It's about choosing to engage with it constructively, to see it as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. And in doing so, you not only grow stronger and more resilient, you also cultivate a sense of inner peace that no amount of criticism can shake. What would you do if you knew you had 1 year left to live? It's a question that cuts through the noise of daily life and forces us to confront what truly matters. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a hypothetical exercise. It was a core practice known as memento mori, or remember death. Far from being morbid, this concept was a powerful tool for living with intention, clarity, and gratitude. By keeping the inevitability of death in mind, the Stoics believed we could strip away the distractions and trivialities that often consume us and focus on what's truly important. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, captured this idea beautifully. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. These words remind us that life isn't short, it's our tendency to squander it on things that don't truly matter. Memento mori isn't about fear or despair, it's about awakening to the preciousness of each moment and using that awareness to guide our choices. At its core, this practice is about perspective. When we remember that our time is finite, the small annoyances, traffic jams, rude comments, or minor setbacks lose their grip on us. Suddenly, the arguments over trivial matters or the hours spent scrolling mindlessly on our phones seem less important. Instead, we're drawn to what truly matters: meaningful relationships, personal growth, and the pursuit of our deepest values. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're faced with a decision at work. Should you take on a new project that excites you but requires extra effort, or stick to your current routine for the sake of comfort? Memento mori asks you to consider, if this were your last year, which choice would align with the life you want to live? This shift in perspective can help you cut through indecision and act with greater purpose. Here's a simple way to bring this into your daily life. Take a moment to write a life priorities list. What are the things that truly matter to you? Is it spending more time with loved ones, pursuing a passion, or making a difference in your community? By identifying these priorities, you create a compass that guides your decisions, helping you focus on what's meaningful rather than what's merely urgent. The Stoic practice of memento mori isn't about dwelling on death. It's about embracing life. It's a reminder to live fully, authentically, and with intention, so that when the time comes, you can look back without regret. So, as you move through your day, ask yourself, am I living in a way that honors the time I have? And if not, what's one small step I can take today to align my actions with my deepest values? This practice isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a call to action. By remembering the brevity of life, you reclaim your power to live it fully with purpose and presence. And in doing so, you transform not just how you live, but how you experience life itself. Desire is the root of much suffering. It's a powerful force, one that can drive us to achieve incredible things, but it can also leave us perpetually unsatisfied, always chasing the next thing without ever feeling content. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that unchecked desires could enslave us, trapping us in a cycle of longing and disappointment. But they also knew that by mastering our desires, we could find a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who rose from slavery to become one of the most influential teachers of his time, put it this way: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. These words cut to the heart of the Stoic approach to desire. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure or living a life of austerity. It's about cultivating contentment with what we have rather than constantly yearning for more. At its core, Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between natural desires, those that align with our basic needs and values, and unnatural ones, which are often driven by external pressures or societal expectations. A natural desire might be the need for food when we're hungry, while an unnatural desire could be the craving for luxury or status, symbols that don't truly serve us. By focusing on what's necessary and letting go of what's excessive, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of wanting. Let's bring this into a modern context. Think about consumerism. How often do we buy things, not because we need them, but because we've been convinced that they'll make us happier, more successful, or more accepted? The Stoics would argue that this kind of desire only leads to temporary satisfaction, followed by a lingering sense of emptiness. The same principle applies to social media. How much of our time and energy is spent chasing likes, followers, or validation, only to feel more disconnected and dissatisfied in the end? Here's a practical way to apply this. Next time you feel the urge to buy something or scroll endlessly through your feed, pause and ask yourself, is this desire coming from a place of need or from a place of want? What am I truly seeking, and is there a healthier, more fulfilling way to meet that need? By bringing awareness to our desires, we can begin to untangle ourselves from the patterns that keep us feeling unfulfilled. So let's take a moment to reflect. What's one desire in your life that you could let go of? Maybe it's the need for constant approval, the pressure to keep up with trends, or the habit of comparing yourself to others. By identifying and releasing these desires, you create space for what truly matters: contentment, peace, and a deeper connection to your own values. The Stoic approach to desire isn't about rejecting ambition or avoiding pleasure. It's about aligning our desires with what truly serves us so that we can live with intention and fulfillment. And in doing so, we free ourselves from the chains of endless wanting, opening the door to a life of greater meaning and joy. What if everything happened for a reason? What if, instead of resisting the twists and turns of life, we embraced them fully, even loved them? This is the heart of the Stoic practice of amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a way of life. They believed that by accepting and even cherishing whatever life threw their way, we could transform challenges into opportunities, setbacks into stepping stones, and pain into growth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, captured this idea powerfully. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. These words remind us that even the most difficult experiences can become fuel for our growth if we choose to see them that way. Amor fati isn't about passive acceptance, it's about active engagement with life, finding meaning and purpose in every moment, no matter how it unfolds. At its core, amor fati is about shifting our perspective. Instead of seeing obstacles as roadblocks, we see them as part of the journey. Instead of lamenting what we can't control, we focus on how we can respond with courage and creativity. This mindset doesn't erase the pain or difficulty of life's challenges, but it gives us the tools to navigate them with grace and resilience. Let's make this practical. Imagine you've just lost your job. It's a devastating blow, one that can leave you feeling helpless and uncertain about the future. But with the mindset of amor fati, you might see this as an opportunity, a chance to explore a new career path, to reassess your goals, or even to take a much-needed break. By reframing the situation, you reclaim your power to shape your response, turning a moment of loss into a moment of possibility. Here's another example. Think about a relationship that ended. At the time, it might have felt like a failure, a source of deep pain. But with the perspective of amor fati, you might come to see it as a necessary step in your growth, a chance to learn more about yourself, to clarify what you truly want, and to open the door to new connections that align more closely with who you are. So let's bring this closer to home. Take a moment to reflect on a past event that felt like a setback at the time. Maybe it was a missed opportunity, a failed project, or a personal loss. Looking back, can you see how that experience shaped you, how it led to new insights or opportunities you might not have discovered otherwise? Amor Fati invites us to find meaning in every experience, to see even the hardest moments as part of a larger, more beautiful story. The Stoic practice of Amor Fati isn't about denying hardship or pretending everything is perfect. It's about embracing life in all its complexity, finding beauty in the struggle, and trusting that every moment, good or bad, is an essential part of who we are becoming. By loving our fate, we don't just endure life, we live it fully with open hearts and unshakable resolve. Relationships are a mirror of our inner state. How we engage with others often reflects how we engage with ourselves, our emotions, our values, and our capacity for understanding. For the Stoics, relationships weren't just a part of life. They were a profound opportunity to practice virtue, cultivate empathy, and deepen self-awareness. They believed that the way we connect with others could either elevate us or pull us into chaos, depending on how we approach them. At the heart of Stoic relationships is a delicate balance between empathy and detachment. Empathy allows us to truly see and understand others, to step into their shoes and connect on a human level. Detachment, on the other hand, reminds us that we can't control how others think, feel, or act, only how we respond. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, captured this beautifully. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. These words remind us that relationships are a two-way street, built on mutual growth and respect. So, how does this play out in real life? Imagine you're in a heated argument with a family member. Emotions are running high, and it feels like no one is listening. The Stoic approach would be to pause and ask yourself, what's within my control here? Can I respond with patience and understanding, even if the other person isn't? By focusing on your own actions and reactions, you create space for resolution rather than escalation. This principle also applies to friendships. Think about a time when a friend let you down. It's easy to feel hurt or betrayed, but the Stoics would encourage you to reflect on the situation with compassion. What might they be going through? How can you approach the situation with empathy while also maintaining healthy boundaries? By balancing understanding with self-respect, you can navigate even the most challenging dynamics with grace. Here's a question to reflect on. Think about one relationship in your life, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or a family member. How do you approach it? Are you able to empathize without losing yourself in the process? And how might applying Stoic principles like empathy, detachment, and mutual growth strengthen that connection? The Stoic approach to relationships isn't about perfection or avoiding conflict. It's about finding harmony within yourself so you can bring that harmony to your interactions with others. It's about seeing every relationship as a chance to practice virtue, to grow, and to connect more deeply with the world around you. And in doing so, you create bonds that are not just meaningful but transformative. What's the worst that could happen? It's a question most of us avoid asking, but for the Stoics, it was a central practice known as premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This isn't about pessimism or expecting the worst at every turn. Instead, it's a powerful mental exercise designed to prepare us for life's inevitable challenges, reduce fear, and build resilience. By intentionally imagining potential setbacks, we strip them of their power to surprise or overwhelm us, and we equip ourselves to respond with clarity and calm. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, captured the essence of this practice perfectly. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. In other words, when we're caught off guard by adversity, it hits harder. but when we've mentally prepared for it, we're better equipped to handle it with grace. Premeditatio malorum is like a mental rehearsal, a way of training our minds to stay steady even in the face of uncertainty. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're planning a trip, a long-awaited vacation you've been looking forward to for months. Instead of only envisioning the perfect getaway, take a moment to consider what could go wrong. What if your flight is delayed? What if the weather turns bad? What if you lose your luggage? By anticipating these possibilities, you're not inviting disaster, you're preparing for it. Maybe you pack a backup outfit in your carry-on, or you research alternative activities in case of rain. The act of preparation doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers you to adapt and stay composed no matter what happens. This practice also applies to financial planning. Let's say you're working toward a major goal like buying a home or starting a business. Instead of only focusing on the best-case scenario, take time to consider potential obstacles. What if the market shifts? What if unexpected expenses arise? By imagining these challenges, you can create contingency plans, like building an emergency fund or diversifying your investments. This doesn't mean you're doubting your success, it means you're ensuring you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. Here's a reflective prompt for you. Think about a goal or event you're currently preparing for. What's one challenge that could arise? How would you respond if it did? By taking a few moments to anticipate and plan, you're not just bracing for the worst, you're building the kind of mental resilience that allows you to thrive even in uncertainty. The Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum isn't about dwelling on negativity, it's about embracing reality with open eyes and a prepared mind. By anticipating challenges, we transform fear into focus, uncertainty into opportunity, and adversity into growth. And in doing so, we create a life that's not just resilient but deeply intentional. True success is measured by character, not wealth. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was the foundation of how they approached life. While the world often equates success with external markers like money, fame, or status, the Stoics saw it differently. They believed that real success was an internal achievement, rooted in virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. It wasn't about what you accumulated, but who you became in the process. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it this way: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. These words cut to the heart of the Stoic view of success. It's not about meeting society's expectations or chasing external validation. It's about living in alignment with your highest values, about striving to be the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching. So, how does this apply to modern life? Think about how we often define success today: climbing the corporate ladder, building a social media following, or accumulating possessions. While these things aren't inherently bad, the Stoics would argue that they're hollow if they're not grounded in virtue. A promotion at work might feel like a win, but if it comes at the cost of your integrity or peace of mind, is it truly success? A large following on social media might boost your ego, but if it distracts you from meaningful relationships or personal growth, does it really matter? The Stoic approach to success invites us to shift our focus inward. Instead of measuring ourselves against external benchmarks, we're encouraged to ask, am I living with integrity? Am I treating others with kindness and fairness? Am I growing, learning, and striving to be better today than I was yesterday? These are the questions that reveal true success, not the size of your bank account, but the depth of your character. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're at a crossroads in your career. You've been offered a high-paying job, but it requires compromises that don't align with your values. The Stoic approach would be to weigh the decision not just by the financial gain, but by the impact it will have on your character. Will this role help you grow as a person, or will it pull you further away from who you want to be? By focusing on internal success, you create a compass that guides your choices, ensuring they align with your deepest principles. Here's a reflective prompt for you. Take a moment to define success for yourself. Is it about external achievements, or is it something deeper, like living with purpose, cultivating meaningful relationships, or making a positive impact on the world? By clarifying your own definition, you can start aligning your actions with what truly matters to you. The Stoic view of success isn't about rejecting ambition or avoiding external goals. It's about ensuring that those goals serve your inner growth rather than pulling you away from it. And in doing so, you create a life that's not just successful by society's standards, but deeply fulfilling by your own. When was the last time you sat in silence, not just the absence of noise, but true, intentional quiet, where the only thing you hear is your own breath and the rhythm of your thoughts? For the Stoics, silence wasn't just a break from the chaos of the world. It was a vital practice for cultivating clarity, self-control, and inner peace. In a world that's constantly buzzing with distractions, the ability to embrace silence is a skill that can transform how we think, act, and live. The Stoics understood that silence is more than just the absence of sound. It's a space for reflection, a chance to hear our inner voice above the noise of external influences. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, put it this way: "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that silence isn't passive. It's an active practice of listening to ourselves, to others, and to the wisdom that emerges when we stop filling the air with words. Think about how often we react impulsively, saying or doing things we later regret. Silence gives us the pause we need to respond with intention rather than react out of habit or emotion. It's like hitting the reset button on our minds, allowing us to step back, assess the situation, and choose our next move with clarity and purpose. So, how can we bring this into our daily lives? One practical way is through meditation or quiet reflection. Even just 5 minutes of silence each day can make a profound difference. Sit in a comfortable position, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. If your mind starts to wander, and it will gently bring it back to the present moment. This practice isn't about achieving perfect stillness. It's about creating a habit of presence, a space where you can reconnect with yourself. Here's a challenge for you. Try spending 5 minutes in silence today. You don't need a special setup or a quiet room. Just find a moment wherever you are to turn down the volume of your day. Notice how it feels to sit with your thoughts, to let the noise settle, and to simply be. What comes up for you? What insights or emotions rise to the surface? The Stoic practice of silence isn't about escaping the world. It's about creating a space where you can engage with it more fully. By embracing silence, you're not just quieting the external noise, you're amplifying your inner wisdom, building the kind of clarity and self-control that allows you to navigate life with intention and grace. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. This might sound counterintuitive, especially in a world that often celebrates perfection and achievement while shunning mistakes. But for the Stoics, failure wasn't something to fear or avoid. It was an essential teacher, a source of wisdom and growth. They believed that how we respond to failure reveals far more about us than the failure itself. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound voices, put it this way: "The wise man is not distressed by failure, he learns from it." These words remind us that failure isn't a verdict on our worth or abilities, it's an opportunity to reflect, adapt, and improve. The Stoics saw failure as a natural part of life, something to be embraced rather than resisted. It's through our missteps, after all, that we gain the insights needed to move forward with greater clarity and resilience. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're an entrepreneur launching a new product. Despite your best efforts, it doesn't take off as you'd hoped. The Stoic approach wouldn't be to dwell on the disappointment or let it define you. Instead, you'd ask, what can I learn from this? Was there a flaw in the product design? Did I misread the market? By examining the failure objectively, you can extract valuable lessons that inform your next steps. This mindset doesn't just help you recover, it transforms the experience into a stepping stone for future success. The same principle applies to creative endeavors. Think about a writer whose manuscript is rejected by publishers. It's easy to see this as a personal failure, but the Stoic perspective would encourage a different view. Perhaps the rejection reveals areas for improvement in the writing, or maybe it's a sign to explore alternative publishing routes. By reframing the failure as feedback, the writer can use it to refine their craft and pursue their goals with renewed determination. So let's bring this closer to home. Take a moment to reflect on a past failure in your own life. Maybe it was a project that didn't go as planned, a relationship that ended, or a goal you didn't achieve. What did you learn from that experience? How did it shape your approach moving forward? The Stoics would argue that every failure, no matter how painful, carries a lesson if we're willing to look for it. This isn't about denying the sting of failure or pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about choosing to see it as a teacher rather than an enemy. By embracing this mindset, you build the kind of resilience that allows you to rise stronger after every setback. And in doing so, you transform failure from a source of fear into a tool for growth, one that helps you navigate life's challenges with courage and clarity. What would your life look like with less noise, less clutter, less distraction? For the Stoics, simplicity wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a path to clarity, focus, and inner peace. They believed that by stripping away the unnecessary, we create space for what truly matters. In a world that often equates more with success, the Stoic practice of simplicity invites us to rethink that equation, to find richness not in accumulation but in intentional living. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, captured this idea beautifully. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. These words remind us that simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's about freeing ourselves from the weight of excess so we can focus on what brings genuine fulfillment. The Stoics saw simplicity as a way to align our outer lives with our inner values, to create a life that's not just easier to manage but richer in meaning. At its core, simplicity is about focus. When we remove the distractions, whether they're physical, mental, or emotional, we're better able to direct our energy toward what truly matters. Think about how much time and effort we spend managing our possessions, scrolling through endless feeds, or chasing goals that don't align with our deeper purpose. The Stoics would argue that every distraction, every excess pulls us further away from the life we're meant to live. Let's make this practical. Consider the physical clutter in your home. How much of it do you truly need or use? The Stoic approach to decluttering isn't about minimalism for its own sake. It's about creating an environment that supports your values and goals. By letting go of what no longer serves you, you create space for what does, meaningful connections, personal growth, and moments of quiet reflection. The same principle applies to digital clutter. How much of your time is spent scrolling through social media, responding to notifications, or jumping from one app to the next? Stoic simplicity invites us to reclaim that time, to set boundaries around our digital lives so we can reconnect with the present moment. Maybe it's turning off notifications for a few hours, deleting apps that don't add value, or setting aside dedicated time each day to unplug entirely. Here's a reflective prompt for you. Take a moment to identify one area of your life that feels cluttered or overwhelming. Is it your schedule, your workspace, or perhaps your digital habits? What's one small step you could take today to simplify that area? Remember, simplicity isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making intentional choices that bring you closer to the life you want to live. The Stoic practice of simplicity isn't just about reducing what you have, it's about amplifying what you value. By letting go of the excess, you create space for more joy, more connection, and more meaning. And in doing so, you build a life that's not just simpler, but deeply fulfilling. Change is the only constant in life. It's a truth that can feel unsettling, even overwhelming, especially when we cling to the familiar or resist the unknown. But for the Stoics, change wasn't something to fear, it was a natural part of existence, a force to be embraced rather than fought against. They believed that by accepting change as inevitable, we could navigate life's transitions with grace, adaptability, and resilience. The Stoic approach to change begins with a simple yet profound shift in perspective. Instead of seeing change as a disruption or a threat, they viewed it as an opportunity, a chance to grow, to learn, and to align more deeply with the flow of life. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who rose from slavery to become one of the most influential teachers of his time, put it this way: "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." These words remind us that change, like the seasons, unfolds in its own time. Our task isn't to control it, but to adapt to it with patience and trust. At its core, Stoic adaptability is about letting go of what we can't control and focusing on how we respond. Think about a major career shift, for example. Maybe you've been laid off or you're transitioning to a new industry. It's easy to feel lost or anxious in the face of such uncertainty. But the Stoic mindset encourages you to see this as a chance to reassess your path, to explore new possibilities, and to grow in ways you might not have imagined. Instead of resisting the change, you can choose to flow with it, using it as a catalyst for personal and professional growth. The same principle applies to life's smaller transitions. Perhaps you're moving to a new city, ending a relationship, or adjusting to a different routine. These moments of change can feel disorienting, but they also offer an opportunity to practice Stoic acceptance. By focusing on what you can control, your attitude, your effort, your perspective, you can transform even the most challenging transitions into moments of clarity and strength. Here's a reflective prompt for you. Think about a recent change in your life, whether it was a big shift or a small adjustment. How did you respond to it? Did you resist, or did you find a way to adapt? And more importantly, what could you have done differently if you had approached it with a Stoic mindset? By reflecting on these questions, you can begin to build the kind of adaptability that allows you to thrive, no matter what life throws your way. The Stoic approach to change isn't about denying the difficulty or discomfort that often comes with it. It's about embracing change as a teacher, a guide, and a reminder that life is always evolving. By learning to flow with change rather than fight against it, you open yourself to a life of greater flexibility, resilience, and peace. And in doing so, you transform the inevitable into the extraordinary. As we bring this journey through Stoic resolve and discipline to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've uncovered. At its core, Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of life, a toolkit for navigating chaos with clarity, building resilience in the face of adversity, and reclaiming control over your inner world. It's about mastering the art of self-control, not to suppress your emotions, but to channel them in ways that serve you. It's about cultivating presence so you can engage fully with the here and now, rather than being pulled into regrets about the past or anxieties about the future. And it's about embracing change, failure, and even discomfort as opportunities for growth, rather than obstacles to avoid. these principles, self-control, resilience, and presence, aren't just abstract ideas. They're actionable steps you can take every day to live with greater intention and purpose. Whether it's pausing before reacting in anger, choosing to focus on what you can control, or finding gratitude in the midst of chaos, Stoicism offers a roadmap for dominating life, not through force, but through unwavering resolve and fierce discipline. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, left us with a powerful reminder. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These words capture the essence of what it means to live a Stoic life. It's not about controlling the world around you, but about mastering your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. When you do that, you become unstoppable, not because life stops throwing challenges your way, but because you've built the resilience to rise above them. Now it's your turn to take these principles and make them your own. Start small, practice self-control in one area of your life, whether it's resisting an impulsive purchase or staying calm during a difficult conversation. Reflect on your progress, not with judgment, but with curiosity and compassion. And remember, this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward a life of greater purpose, clarity, and strength. If this journey through Stoicism has resonated with you, I'd love to hear how these principles have impacted your life. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What's one Stoic practice you've tried, and how has it changed the way you approach challenges? And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little more Stoic resolve in their life. Together, let's build a community of people committed to living with intention, resilience, and unwavering strength. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic philosophy. Remember, the power to dominate your life isn't out there, it's within you. So take that first step today and let's create a life worth living, one moment at a time.